Can a girl ask a guy out?
No.
Let me finish the question. Is there something innate about men making the first move, or is that just cultural?
Okay, well, this is good. This is good. Well, Wendy, why don't you tell our story here? Go ahead. This is
Well,
fitting.
first of all, the way this is worded, can a girl ask a guy out, is sort of fundamentally, yes, it's possible. I don't think that's what we're trying to get
No.
at, is whether maybe more is it a good idea or not.
Yeah.
So I honestly, I asked Christopher out.
She did.
I
Yes, you
did in
did.
1994.
No,
So
yes, you
it's
did.
a long time ago, but I was Catholic young person and I had an interest in furthering our relationship, seeing where it might go. And so, yeah, I asked you out.
And what did I say?
I'll have to pray about that, which was I understood because of the context of how we met each other. I
Oh,
was okay
dear.
with hearing that, but I remember my roommate, actually her boyfriend said,
Pray about it.
Like that was a very strange answer to that question. That was kind of funny.
Yeah, strange for those who may not take that approach.
Yeah.
The reason I said I had to pray about it was partly because I really did. I really took seriously wanting to follow God's will in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought that was maybe I don't know. How did you receive it when I said that
Well,
anyway?
it was fine.
Yeah.
I prayed about it too. And actually, we said we would talk again in a week
Right.
to figure it out. We didn't have texting and Facebook messaging and even email, so we were just talking to one another on the phone. And
the old-fashioned way.
yeah, we were so old-fashioned. So yeah, we said we would talk again in a week. And actually, as I prayed during that week, I started to kind of get the feeling like, you know what, I really just want to talk with him. We can talk on the phone. We don't need to go out. So I was almost starting to feel like I don't think this is God's timing for us, if in fact he has a timing for us.
Do you remember my initial response when you asked me out?
Oh yeah. So this really relates to the question being asked.
It does.
Because this is how I remember it anyway. What I remember saying is, I was wondering if you and I could hang out sometime.
Uh-huh.
Is that kind of what you remember me saying?
I don't know the
hang
exact
out or
words.
Get together.
It was clear that this was an invitation from you that I had not yet had, and it was clear that it was an invitation to further our relationship.
Yes, that's right.
It was not just let's go out and have some coffee or something. It was as in like we had been friends at that point for 2.5 years or more.
But we hadn't really done things just the two of us. Right. It was part of a group.
So it was clear that this was an invitation.
You can say what you said.
Yes, and I said, oh, a woman of the 90s.
Yes, and then the next part was.
Oh, and then I said, right, I'm flattered, which was.
That was kind of painful to my heart because it was like somehow in my mind that was just not the right thing for a guy to say.
I'm flattered. I'm sorry.
Well,
let me just put this in context for all our listeners. That within a year we were engaged.
True.
From that point, right? Mm-hmm. We didn't really go out on our first date until was April of 94 that you asked me out. So we went out on our first date in March of 95.
Right.
And then we were engaged just 7 weeks later in May of 95. Right. So anyway, that's just a little bit of our personal history in responding to this question.
By the way, when we talked a week later, you had discerned, no, we were not.
Yeah, that's why we didn't go out.
And that's okay.
Till however many months later.
Maybe we need to look at the whole dynamic of a woman asking a man out or a girl asking a guy out and just kind of what is the meaning of that? And
yeah. And what light does the theology of the body shine on these questions? Sure. I do think, the very nature of the question, should a girl be asking a guy out, is an acknowledgement that there's a difference. Mm-hmm. And we have to avoid exaggerating the differences, but we also have to avoid ignoring the differences. And the way I usually point these themes out when they come up in a class or when I'm giving a presentation at a parish or something like that is I'll say, okay, I'll make fun of the scene in Back to the Future when Marty's mom says, when I was a girl, girls didn't call boys on the phone, you know? And there's nothing wrong with a girl calling a boy on the phone or texting or whatever
Communication.
communication is happening in
Mm-hmm.
these days and how that communication is happening. Um, and there's nothing wrong in the marital context with a wife initiating lovemaking, right? In terms of who's going to initiate. If we're going to talk about themes of the male and the female, if you look at the theology of a man's body, he's the one who gives the seed. This is not arbitrary. This says something about the masculine reality. The woman is the one who opens to receive that gift. That says something about the feminine reality. John Paul II makes the key point, however, that in giving the gift, he also receives the gift of the woman, and receiving the gift of the man, the woman also makes the gift of herself. So he says there's a giving and there's an interpenetration, he says, of the giving and receiving.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a great way to acknowledge the difference without exaggerating the difference. So in that recognition, just as I said, there's nothing wrong with the wife initiating lovemaking. There's no husband on the planet, I think, would have a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say there's something in the way a man is wired and the way a woman is wired that I don't believe it's just cultural conditioning, for example, that men propose marriage to women. And I think in 25 years of doing this work, when I've asked this question of women, I think there might have been only one or two objections, and this is like hundreds of thousands of women over the years, when I've said, and women, don't you prefer also that a man would propose marriage to you? Overwhelmingly, like 99.8%
Mm-hmm.
of female responses to that question is an overwhelming yes, that's the way I want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it says something about the way we're wired. I wouldn't go so far as to say, therefore, a woman should never take some kind of initiative in a relationship. Not at all. Nor should a man feel threatened by that. So my overall answer is recognize the difference between men and women without exaggerating it.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts, Wendy?
I'm sort of feeling like this might have been a question asked by a woman or a girl who's kind of feeling unsure about whether to let her feelings be known.
Right.
So I can certainly speak to some experience of having let my feelings be known. You're obviously taking a risk, and I think that's always a little bit of a challenge. But I also feel like, there's something beautiful about the complementarity of men and women, and the deepening of a friendship doesn't always mean something more than a deepening of a friendship. And it's okay for either person to take the step to deepen the friendship and see what comes of that. So, in kind of a, just a simple way, maybe it's because of my background, but I certainly don't think there should be some kind of rule against, women expressing themselves to men, feeling that they are, it's appropriate for them to do so. That kind of notion that you should just wait around and hope seems sort of powerless and a little sad. And I don't like
I would agree that that's probably an exaggeration of the difference. It's acknowledging a difference that is real, but I think it's an exaggerated application of the difference to say, therefore, women should never express their feelings and I think maybe we'd leave it at that. That's
good.
Yeah, I hope that's helpful to those who have been wondering about that.
Mm-hmm.